In 2005, I was sitting out back on the back stairs behind my house, and it started to rain. I'm talking on a cordless phone, and I heard thunder and then a loud crack and the lightning bolt. I saw it come out of the sky and it hit my right arm. And after it did that, it passed through my body and it traveled underneath the house and it hit the transformer in front of our house. And when the lightning hit me, I felt this burning, searing, agonizing pain that lasted for only a minute, but it seemed like eternity. It was so painful. And then all of a sudden, I'm peeling up out of my body, just peeling right up out of myself. And I found myself going into the house. And at this time, I did not know I was dead. So I'm walking through my house and I'm in the kitchen and I look around and everything has a burnt gold look to it. And as I'm looking around, I see the curtains on the windows by the sink. And I notice that those curtains weren't my curtains. And I continued to look around and I noticed that the dining room furniture wasn't my furniture. And I was very confused at the moment. I had no idea that I was dead still. And I didn't know that was my house, but I didn't know whose furniture it was. I knew how to get around in the house. The rooms all looked the same, but the furniture was all different. And just about the time that I started to panic, there was this huge, huge, loving presence that was with me. And he filled me full of just the deep, deep sense of love and compassion. And I was no longer afraid. And we started moving very quickly sideways. We did not move up. We didn't move down. We went laterally. And we started moving very quickly through these beautiful pink and gold clouds. And as we got to the end of the clouds, there was this magnificent garden. And just as we got to the entrance of the garden, there were these two young men that stepped forward. And at first I thought that they were angels because they were just literally glowing. And then it hit me that they weren't angels. They were my two brothers who had died when they were babies. And I was only a baby myself, so I didn't, I'd never met them, but it was an instant knowing. And we had this wonderful family reunion with the hugs and the tears. And I was so happy to see them. And I kept telling them that they looked just like Dad and that Dad would be so proud of them. So as we were talking and, hugging and having our reunion, we were walking further into the garden. And I noticed that I could feel the grass on my feet. And it was soft. The air was sweet and crisp. And the colors were so rich and so vibrant. And then there were colors that I didn't even have names for. And as we're walking further into the garden, I noticed that there was a whole bunch of people that gathered around me, and they were from all different time periods. Some of the women were in these beautiful gowns, and some of the men were in fancy suits, and then there were other people that were dressed in different types of clothes. They were from all different time periods, and I knew who they were, and they knew me, but I didn't know where I knew them from. And everyone that I saw was glowing. They were literally glowing, sort of from the inside out. And I didn't see anyone that was over the age of late 20s or early 30s. There were no old people, no sick people, nobody crying, nobody in pain or suffering. As everybody was gathering around me, this huge loving presence that was beside me moved from beside me to behind me. And then my two brothers were one on either side of me. And then all these other people gathered around. And it was time for my life review. It was like a screen had come down and I was watching this old-fashioned movie on an old-fashioned movie reel. And it was moving very quickly. And it was my life from the time I was a baby until the time I died that day in the backyard. And I watched it. And it seemed like it was over really, really fast. And I had no sense of judgment. I had no sense of anything, except I thought it was really short. And I thought, wow, something's missing. And my life must have been really boring because that was over very quick. I'd always been taught that there was judgment, and that did not happen. There was no judgment. I was just loved so completely, and I was so accepted, and I had never experienced any of that before, and it was just such huge love. And so I learned God didn't judge me. That huge loving presence that was behind me was what as I knew was God. And then my brothers and all of those people, they just loved me. There wasn't anybody judging me or condemning me or anything like that. And then I heard a male voice say, "What you put out into the universe will come back to you." And I had never heard words like that before, so I didn't know what that meant. And there was a sense of like I was hooked up to a giant IV bottle of knowledge. It was like having one aha moment after another. I was being infused with this divine wisdom and this knowledge at that point. And I was in shock over it. I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And I kept saying this, oh my God, you were so awesome. You're so cool. Because he was showing me who he was, what he was, how the universe was put together, and that it was all very simple. And we human beings make everything so complicated. And it wasn't complicated at all. And one of the things that was shown to me was what those words, what you put out into the universe will come back to you, what that meant. And the way he was kind of showing it to me was using a boomerang. And so I call it the boomerang effect. So what you say and what you think and what you do, your actions go out into the universe, it spins and gains momentum and gets bigger and stronger. And eventually that boomerang is going to come back and get you. So if you put out love and you put out kindness and compassion and acceptance and all of those wonderful things, then those are the things that'll come back to you. But if you put out lying and stealing and cheating and all of those things, that's what's going to come and get you. That was a life-changing lesson for me. When I came back, I realized I need to really be careful what I say, and I don't want to hurt anyone ever. And so I'm very careful about what I say and what I do. And then I continued looking around, and it was like the most magnificent spring day. The sky was this beautiful blue. I noticed there was a sphere in the sky. It looked like the moon, maybe, or the sun without any light, because the light wasn't coming from a sun. The light was coming from God, the heart of God. And that's what I realized when I looked around. Everything had this glow. Now, my brothers they were the ones that told me that I had died. And I thought, wow, okay, I can do this. With all this beauty and all this love and acceptance and everything, I thought, okay, I can do this. And I wasn't afraid. But when they told me I had died, I looked down the front of me and I could see my hair going down the front of me, and I could see my clothes, and I could see my feet. And I had a body, but it was a light body. It wasn't heavy or weighed down by the trauma of the world or gravity or anything like that. It was very light and very bright. And I was glowing just like everybody else was glowing. But I still had an identity. I was still me. I thought like me, I felt like me, I looked like me, only a better version. We just kept walking through the garden, and I noticed this beautiful, what I call the glorious city. And it was kind of off in the distance to the left a little bit from where I was standing. And there was this golden wall that surrounded the city. And that must have been the barrier. I couldn't go beyond that point. And I saw buildings on the outskirts of the city. And they were made of the most beautiful alabaster, this white marble, and very intricately carved. And there were archways and columns. I saw a place where babies and children go when they die, and I saw children, and there were various ages and stages, and they were running around laughing and playing, and they are cared for by people who have passed on before them, relatives. And then I saw another building, and it kind of looked like maybe a spiritual hospital of some sort. But outside of this particular building, there were healing pools of what looked like living water. It was for people who had died traumatic deaths or victims or, people who died very quickly. And I saw this other building and it looked like this magnificent library. It was full of books from the ceiling to the floor, just a bazillion books on every subject you could possibly want to know. And the inside of that building looked like it had this deep, rich mahogany bookshelves and ladders that you could move around, that you could climb up to get the books on the top. I mean, it was huge. And I called it the Hall of Knowledge, but I'm not sure if that's what it was really called. And then my brothers and I continued walking, and there was a grove of trees over in the corner. People ask me all the time, what were the trees? And I don't know what kind of trees they were, but I saw Jesus coming out of the grove of trees, and he walked up to me. And when he walked up to me, my two brothers disappeared. I have no idea where they went. And so he smiled at me, and I was just in awe of him. He was so beautiful. And he said to me, and this was my first clue that I was going to be sent back, but it went over my head. I didn't pick up on it, but he said to me, I love you. I'm with you. Don't be afraid. And then he walked with me over to this beautiful wooded glen. And there was a stream. And next to the stream, there was a log that was laying down on the ground. And I could see the pine cones and the pine needles. And there were these little blue flowers that were popping up through the pine needles. And I sat down on the log. And when I did, Jesus walks away. And there was a man sitting on the other end of the log. And I knew that man was God. He had this stick and he was kind of, playing with the pine needles or doodling in the grass or ground or dirt or whatever. And he looked over at me and he said, what would you do if it was just me and you? And I was like, what? I didn't understand the question. And he smiled at me and he said, what would you do if it was just me and you? And I still didn't get the question. He smiled at me again and he stood up and he said, come with me. So I got up and we walked further into the wooded glen, and there was a clearing. And at the clearing, he kind of waved his hand. And when he did that, the sky kind of opened up and I could see the vastness of the universe. I could see the rainbow colored gases and the spinning planets and the sparkling stars, but there weren't any people. There were no trees, no cars, no houses, nothing. It was just all of that. And so I looked at God and I said, no, because if it's all of that and me and you would be tired of me after the first 10 minutes and you wouldn't like me anymore because of all of my questions and my chatter. And he threw his head back, and when he did, his eyes sparkled like diamonds. And his laugh was very infectious. And so I started laughing at myself, and I thought, oh my word, what a thing to say to God. You can tell God no. So we went back and we sat back on the log. And he asked me again. He said, what would you do if it was just me and you? No parents, no husband, no children, no friends, nobody, just me and you. Well, I still didn't know how to properly answer that question. And so there was this beautiful oak tree that was in front of me, and it was probably a bazillion years old. It was huge. And I noticed the detail of the bark, and I noticed the roots beneath the ground. And I could see the roots pulling the nutrients out of the soil, and the nutrients go up through the tree and into the leaves. And I could see the veins and the life-giving veins in the leaves, and that the nutrients and the light provide food for the leaves. And the leaves clean the air, and we breathe the air. And so everything is connected to and very dependent upon everything else. So it doesn't matter how tiny God's creation is, it's very, very important to all of creation. And I said to God, and I don't know why I said this, because I've never read the Quran in my life. Never picked it up. I've never seen it. But for some reason, I said, God, your 100th name in the Quran is God is everywhere, God is nowhere, and God is in me. And he said, yes, that's right. And then I said, God, you made this tree. You are in this tree. So when I see this tree, I see you. He said, yes, that's right. Then I started thinking about my parents and I said, God, you made my parents. You are in my parents. So when I see my parents, I see you. And he said, yes, that's right. Well, then I said the same thing about my children. And then I started thinking about certain people who had been very cruel and had hurt me in my life. And I said, God, there are people in this world that are very cruel and they hurt other people. I said, but you made those people. You are in those people. So when I see those people, I see you. He said, yeah, that's right. He said, now I have a question for you. And I thought, oh my. And so he asked me, he said, when you look in the mirror, what do you see? And I kind of put my hands in my lap and kind of looked down because my answer I knew was not the right answer that you give God. My answer normally would have been just me, nobody else, just me. That's it. But I didn't think that that was the proper thing to say. So I said, God, you made me. You are in me. So when I look in the mirror, I see you. And he was so happy. He was like, yeah, that's right. That's right. And his eyes just sparkled. They were the bluest blue I had ever seen. And they just sparkled like diamonds when he smiled. Now, when I saw Jesus, his eyes were brown. So when I said that, God was letting me know, I don't make mistakes. I don't make junk. And you are not all of the things that the people on this world has told you to believe you are. I had my whole adult life, I was told I was fat, I was ugly, I was stupid. And I was believing it. And God was saying, no, I didn't make you that way. You are not all the things that the world tells you you are. And it was such a huge revelation in my mind that I was not all of those things, that God did not see me that way. We talked a little bit more. And then these two angels came over to me. And they did not have wings. They were in these beautiful, ornate dresses. And they took me to this very calm lake. It was like looking at glass. And I leaned over and I looked into the water. And when I did that, I could see the earth below. And I saw future world events. I saw things happening on the earth in different parts of the earth. I saw lots of terrible weather changes, volcanoes and all of that, earthquakes and tsunamis and all of that kind of thing. But I saw really dark clouds, or what looked like clouds, over top of different capitals of the governments in different parts of the world. And then I saw riots and people overthrowing governments, and I was shown that our money system was going to collapse. In fact, the angel said that our money is not worth it, and was told that eventually we would be going back to the barter system as we did years ago. And there was a lot more, but basically I didn't understand why I was being shown this, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do about it. The angel said that these things do not have to happen, that it is human collective selfishness that is causing these things to happen, and humankind can change, and if we change, these things will not happen. But so far we haven't changed, and the things I saw have happened. And then after that, I was sent back to my body, and I remember waking up next to the stairs, and the stairs that I was sitting on had char marks, black char marks on them where I was sitting. And the phone I was talking on was tarred black, and it was across the yard. And when I got back into my body, it was the most painful thing. It was horrific. Just that burning, searing, agonizing, horrible pain that was in my arm and going across my chest. And I have medical documentation I have a right bundle branch block in my heart, and I had a seizure condition from the lightning strike. So That's basically, that's it.
I had lives like that as well. I cleared past lives out of my system, or also healers were clearing them, which were really dreadful, where very negative things happened. I was in a war, I was killed in a war, I was burned, I don't know, like you name it. Hi, my name is Eva. I live in Austria, and it's very great to be here on your podcast. Thank you very much for having me. I work as a spiritual teacher and healer, and here I'm going to share a little bit about my story. So I bought an online course, and it had a guided meditation with it. And one of these guided meditations, suddenly a very amazing experience happened. So I did this meditation, and I dropped into a space where I felt I was gone. So there was no Eva, there was no life story, there was nothing there. It was just silence, pure peace. Very enjoyable place to be in. So because everything was gone, like all my problems, everything I was looking for in my life was gone. So there was such a beautiful experience, and I thought, okay, there must be something more, to that, because this is very unique. And then I shared this with a friend of mine, and he pointed me towards a meditation group, and he was like, okay, join a meditation group and see what's gonna happen for you. And I basically joined that group and meditated twice a week, and it was just sitting in silence for an hour. This is what I thought was what I was doing, but in that guy who led the meditation group was actually transmitting spiritual energy. So I didn't know that at that time. And I learned this over time, and I didn't feel any energies or didn't have any visions or anything like that. It was just sitting in silence. It was really boring, but I thought there just must be something to it. And I kept on sitting, and after like 3 months, I started to feel the energy, and that was really nice. So I just started tingling all over my body when I was sitting in meditation. I started to see lights, visions came in, so I had visions and stuff like that. So I thought, I experienced, okay, there was actually something to that. There was something happening. And then I kept on meditating and do spiritual practices, and then a next phase I started to open up. So it's also known as God consciousness. Always when I was out in nature, it was like a door opened up, and everything was suddenly very like golden. Everything looked so golden, underlaid with golden color. It was blissful. So when I looked at it, it was very blissful, and I experienced this even in my eyeballs. I experienced the bliss, and my whole body experienced bliss. So it was so beautiful, because when I was out in nature, it was like, God was everywhere. This is why it's called God consciousness. And it was the most beautiful experience, because you look at everything and you see God in everything, and that was just very, very special and very enjoyable. But unfortunately, this didn't stay very long. It came and left, and came and left for about a course of 2 months. But that was really, really beautiful experience. And then the next experience, or the next shift I had, is called unity consciousness, also known as oneness. This is basically, I became one with everything. And how did this happen? So I was sitting in a meditation, and I saw it, with my eyes closed, that suddenly my skin just flew off like when you have a balloon and there's a lot of air in it, and then the air leaves the balloon. It's like, and this is what happened. So my skin flew off, and I became one with everything. So there was like no boundaries anymore. Before there was the boundary of Eva, of my body, and then suddenly the boundaries were dissolved. And with that also, I had the sense, like my life story, I saw my life story as being like an energy ball in the center of my chest. So the identification with who and what I was and my life story. And this was ripped out of my chest with that experience as well. So there was like a hole there. So everything I thought who I was, and all my life, it was gone. It was just gone. And it was like, there was like a hole there, and felt very empty for a few days. And I felt kind of really lost, because, before I was so identified with the person of Eva, and then suddenly that person was gone. And I also experienced the ego that thinks that's in charge of this whole of the body and of the life experience, also stepped into the background. So before, I felt like I was in charge of this life and how it unfolded, and suddenly all of that just left. It was gone. And with that, a lot of things happened. So there is a mechanism in the system that pushes down low vibrational energy. So experiences I had before in my life that I just didn't want to look at, or I didn't want to, emotions that were stored, like I was angry about somebody, or I had a traumatic experience and I just pushed it away. Okay, so I was fearful, for example. And this mechanism that that brought up this possibility to push this away dissolved. So suddenly everything, or a lot of it, just blew up. It just came up for me to experience. So I had a time where I felt depression, I felt fear. There was so much fear, so much anxiety. I thought, like, by going on this path of awakening consciousness and experiencing unity consciousness, my life is going to be really nice and awesome, because this is what I read about. There is just going to be bliss and joy and all of these things. But it wasn't like that. Like, it was the total opposite. I felt very bad, and I thought I messed up my life with that. So I thought by meditating, actually, I messed up my life. I don't know, like 1 year later, I had this fascinating experience where I had a session with somebody, and it was different than usual. So I felt this right in the beginning. Okay, that's different than usual. I won't do what I usually do. I will just see what happens. And then we traveled. So we traveled into Earth. So I was shown that Earth is a place where other beings are actually existing as well. It's not just we are living on the top of the Earth, but there is something happening in Earth as well. So I was shown societies in Earth, and it's very interesting. Like, they also have a sky, and they have like a sun, even though I saw it in Earth. Then there are beings, creatures of tremendous size. I didn't really know what they were, but they were just living there as well. And so I was just shown what is in Earth, and I was just shown that I know that there is just more to it. It's not just us living on top of it, basically on the outside. And then I was also shown that there are dimensions, energy dimensions, where beings are existing as well. There are also, again, societies living. There are like castles, and I was just shown. So every dimension I moved up. So I went through 12 different dimensions. I was just shown there are 12 dimensions, and always depending on in which dimension I was, there were beings coming in, and they wanted to show me, oh, look what we have here, and they just wanted to show me around their dimension and their understanding of things. But because I stepped outside of creation before, when I experienced the Brahman, I knew this is all happening in creation, and I felt like I wanted to go outside of creation, or the meditation, the experience I had, it wanted to pull me outside of creation to show me something there. So I kind of basically told the beings, no, I'm not going to interact with you, and I'm just moved through it. And I realized it's very sticky, so it's very easy to get caught in the interference with those beings and with those dimensions. So like aliens and like angels are just all sorts of different beings. So it's very easy to stay with them and not move further. So I moved further, and it was like a gate, and it showed me, okay, I have to exit that gate. I have to go through that gate to exit creation and go into what's beyond creation, so the Brahman. So I did that, and then when I was beyond creation, it was like, oh, I felt that was so nice. It was just silence. There was nothing there. There was no interference. There was nobody who wanted to grab me or anything. It was just very beautiful, so freeing, being out there in the Brahman. And then I was shown again. We moved further up, and then I was shown a light, and it was basically the origin where all lights are coming from. So I was shown it like a, when you're in a whirlpool and there is a water jet coming through. So this is how it was shown to me. So this is where the first light ever that comes in, it was there. And then right away, it formed itself into multiple different lights with different qualities. And light is information, right? So if we are exposed to those lights, we get higher information. So that light was there streaming in, and it was such a beautiful experience. Like, it was absolutely amazing. I've never experienced, how do you describe being immersed in light in the best possible way? But it was divine. Like, it was just divine. This is the best way I can describe it. It was beautiful. And then I got the information. So the light came into the back of my head, into my spine, and like my whole spine was filled up with it. And I got the information, this light is something that's mine, so I'm part of that. So before I incarnated, apparently this was part of me, and I'm just getting back what's mine already, and I can work with this from now on. And there had to be some time until I get it back. So this was apparently that time. So, and that light merged with my system and my nervous system. And then I came back, so that we journeyed back down into creation. So again, coming into creation, going through all this dimension, coming back into my body. And I had this light with me, and it's introduced itself basically as the light of the highest truth. It contains everything that exists in creation. So that's the light of the highest truth. And I can now transmit that light to people. And it helps people to find their own personal highest truth, whatever that is for this lifetime. So it pulls people towards the optimum timeline, whatever that is, and open up their potential, and then eventually realizing the true nature as well, which is the Brahman. So this is what the light is doing, and this is the light I'm working with now and transmitting to people. The best, so I see it, I just describe it with my words. So I don't really see specifically, it wasn't shown to me that there is going to be a new earth, but there is going to be the way of how we are experiencing this life and this changes, and this actually is something my work does. So let's say we still have a lot of fear in our system, stored energies, stuck energies from this life, just energies that we haven't processed. And then we look through a lens of fear. So everything we look at, we see something fearful about it. Oh, this could happen or that could happen, and always in a negative way, So it's always like, oh my God, something negative will happen in the future. So there is this fear, or we might die, or we won't have enough money, or we won't have enough food, or there will be war, or whatever. So we see it through that lens. But when I clear the system from these low vibrational energies, and this is a process, this can happen over time, so it's not something that happens in a day, it takes weeks, months, years. You start seeing life through a different lens and through a different vibration, because when you clear low vibrational energies out of your system, that means there is more space for higher vibrational energies. There's more space for higher truth. So that's the transmission I work with. It comes in, it has this information of highest truth. So you have more high vibrational energies in your system, and you start seeing life through this lens of a higher vibration, like love, joy, these vibrations. And even though we live on the same earth, we have a totally different experience, because first of all, we see it from a different lens, and also we are then in a different vibration, and then we shown different things. So lower vibrational stuff is if we have low vibrations in our system, we attract low vibrational experiences and people. And if we live in a higher vibration, we experience higher vibrational people, higher vibrational experiences. And then life becomes a lot nicer. And it's basically, even though negative things are happening on the planet, it's like, it doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm not experiencing them. I have no information about them. And if I hear the information on the news, it's like, it doesn't interfere with my state of being. There's just the joy and the love there. So this is basically what some people then, from my opinion, or from what I see, refer to the new earth. The human changes, but the human system starts changing, and by that we are starting experiencing the world in a different way, and of course we start acting differently as well, because when we come from a higher vibration, we're not doing low vibrational things. But also what comes with going through these levels of consciousness is the understanding that every human being incarnates and has a certain life story. So every human has to go through certain experiences, have to go through certain learnings and all of that. So every human being is very different, and that's perfect as it is. Every human needs to have that, and not everybody wants to experience, or that the theme of that life is to experience a high vibrational life. For some people, the theme is to explore a more low vibrational life, and that's fine. So with the levels of consciousness, just this understanding and the unconditional love, this understanding comes in, and it's fine that some people are just experiencing a more negative reality than others, and there is also nothing that wants to interfere with that. It's just the seeing, okay, this is what the human needs to go through, and this is just how it is, because I had lives like that as well. I cleared past lives out of my system, or also healers were clearing them, which were really dreadful, where very negative things happened. I was in a war, I was killed in a war, I was burned, I don't know, like you name it. So a lot of ways I died in a very dreadful way. I lived in societies that weren't, loving to each other, but the total opposite. So this is all I know my soul went through, and this is the soul path. So the soul path, the soul moves through low vibrational lives first, and then eventually every life it raises the vibration a little bit, and then eventually it's possible to experience a higher vibrational life. So even though we live on this one planet, and yes, things are happening on this planet, it doesn't necessarily mean that the life experiences of everybody is exactly the same. It's the total opposite. The life experience of everybody is very unique because we are very unique beings. Some of us had multiple lifetimes on Earth, some of us just a few. And this also, and we have different learnings and different experiences we need to go through. So the level of consciousness of Earth is rising. Okay, so it has been like that all the time, and it's still doing. So the vibrations of Earth is always getting higher, and it's the same. So the vibration is getting higher, and by that, everything that's not of the higher vibration but a lower vibration is coming up for us to see. So this is why we see so many negative things on Earth at the moment, because the higher the vibration is, the more these lower vibrational things are being seen and are exposing themselves. And we need to work through them. So it's exactly the same as what I talked before, the individuals. If the individual raises their level of consciousness and their vibration, so like I experienced, I had to clear my system from all the fear and the anger and the hate and all these emotions. And this is the same happening collectively. So when the vibration of Earth is raising, a lot of low vibrational stuff is shown and it has to be cleared. And this is basically what's happening right now. And yes, I mean, the system is collapsing because this is just part of the raising of the vibration of Earth and the raising of the vibration, the consciousness of people who live here. And it has been like that, all the time anyways, but I think we live in a very intense time where we can transform a lot. When you think back of generations, our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, life was very different 150 years ago than it is today, But today we have this amazing time and this amazing opportunity where a lot of transformation can happen in a very short time. This is also why so many people are waking up, to higher levels of consciousness, to their true nature, because the possibility is there. So everything is very contracted, and this is why, awakening is happening so fast. And yes, definitely because of that, new systems will come in place, because the old systems, they don't serve us. So we understand it, right? We don't want to live on a Earth like that anymore, where there is a lot of fear present and there is control, and there are authorities that controlling the masses. We don't want that, right? So we want to be free, and this is why this is all happening right now, so that we have these realizations and that we can start living in a different way. So it's all a process. And even though it seems negative, it's actually very positive, because sometimes we need to go through negative, right? The negative, to then come out on the other side of the tunnel and experience the light. And this is what's happening right now. Yeah. Just that people know what's going to happen, I'm going to bring in the transmission of the highest truth. So that's the experience I was talking about before. And I will transmit it to people, and I will guide them through it. And what they can do is just sitting back, relaxing, closing the eyes. That would be optimum if it's possible. If people are like driving or doing something else, that's fine as well. And some people who are receptive for energies, they can feel what I'm doing, and some people cannot feel, but that's fine, because every human system is a bit different, and it also depends on the refinement of the nervous system, because when the nervous system is more refined, then it's possible to feel energies. If not yet, and this can, it's a process, this can happen for everybody really, or for most people, then you can start feel energies. So I will bring it in. You can just sit back, relax, close your eyes, be in an open receptive state. Okay, I always start with opening up the energy field. So I'm opening up the energy field to bring in more light into the system. So I'm opening up the energy field. And what is the energy field exactly? So we have a body, and outside of our body, so there are more layers, and this also part of our body, it's just not visible, and this is basically our energy field, and the body is contained in the energy field. Okay, then I bring in more light. And then I expand the energy field. Expanding the energy field helps to hold more light in the system, and also more awareness comes with that as well. So I'm expanding. And the energy field can always be more expanded. And the light that comes in carries higher information. So light is pure information. And the information is not for our mind, is for our energy field and for our body. So that we can start living more from this higher information and not just the information that we have available right now. So this is how it works. So I'm expanding still. And then I fill up the expanded space with light. And then I clear surface energies. So surface energies are energies we've been exposed to over the past 1 or 2 days, and also emotions. So, when there is a lot going on in our system, a lot of thoughts and a lot of emotions, they're just like noise. They're noise in our system. And beyond that noise is just silence. And so I'm clearing the noise. So I'm clearing those triggered energies, the triggered emotions. And at the same time, when I clear them, more light can enter the system. So it's high vibrational divine light, and it helps to raise our vibration. And by being exposed to that light regularly, also the life experience changes, because the higher vibration is, the nicer the life experience gets. Okay, I'm still clearing. And if you feel energies, and if you tune into your system now, maybe you can feel, first of all, the system and the body is a lot calmer now. And there's a lot more light present. So that light is coming in, the light of the highest truth is coming in. And it pulls you towards your personal highest truth. Every single person's highest truth is a bit different. So that's very important. And whatever that means for you, your highest truth, this can then start unfolding in your life experience more. So again, it's an unfolding process, but it can start unfold more and more. Often we feel like we're stuck in a job we don't like, in a relationship we don't prefer, or just stuck in life. And this light that comes in basically helps to clear the blockages that makes us feel stuck, so that it opens up new possibilities. Maybe new people are coming in our lives, that or a new job is coming in, or a new relationship is coming in, or if we're on the path of spiritual awakening, we can awaken to higher levels of consciousness because the light is helping us to. So this is very individual, and this is what the light is doing because it has a higher intelligence, and this is something we can't grasp with our minds. It's happening beyond the mind. So the light is working on every cell of the body and transforming the whole system towards your personal highest truth. And then I also clear thoughts out of the mind. So thoughts are also just energy. On a core level, thoughts are just energy. And when we have a lot of thoughts and worries, and what do I need to do next, and what kind of work do I need to accomplish today, or what errands I need to run and stuff like that. There's just a lot of thoughts about the future, and I clear them because they're not needed. We don't need them because we only live in the present moment. So we only need to be aware of what's happening in the present moment. It doesn't necessarily mean that we can't plan. Of course we need to plan what we're going to do tomorrow and the day after and all of that. But I'm talking about the stories, these stories we think, the predictions we have, especially negative ones about how life is going to be in tomorrow or in a few weeks or years. This is just stories and it's not needed. Okay, so I'm clearing it. And now there's also a lot of light present in the mind area, so third eye chakra. And it's also dissolving those stories, those thoughts that are just so influencing our life experience. And then I open up the central energy channel. So the central energy channel is located in the center of our energy field. And it goes from the root to the crown chakra, and this is where life energy is flowing through our system. So life energy flows from the root to the crown chakra, falls back down, left and right in all directions, and flows up again, and so on. And for people who feel stuck and have a lot of blockages and emotional baggage, mostly there is not so much life energy flowing, although there is always some flowing, but not so much. And then people who have already done a lot of work on their system, clearing low vibrational energies, traumatic experiences, past life influences, ancestral influences, more light is flowing, more light is flowing. And then we have a lot more energy available, like also in our everyday life. The outlook on life is just more positive. Things are more aligning, so life is experienced more being just a flow. So everything is just unfolding. The effort, there is no effort anymore. So before, a lot of things we needed a lot of effort to accomplish. But then it seems so much more effortless. And there are less obstacles. And if there are obstacles, it's a lot easier to overcome them. So life gets just simpler, easier, more enjoyable. Synchronicities are just there all the time. So this is basically then a natural way of living is just, life is just synchronicity all the time. So we get exactly what we need in the present moment whenever we need it. So it's coming in. We don't need to do anything for it. And this happens when there is more life energy flowing. And life energy is life in the present moment. So that was what I was talking about before. So life in the present moment. This is what life energy is. Okay, so I'm accelerating the life energy, that you have more energy available. And then I help it to flow more. And it's also then helping to clear some of your blockages so that you just have less baggage that you carry around with you all day. So we all every human is carrying this baggage, but it's possible to clear it and just get rid of it. Okay. And then I clear fear. I clear fear out of the root chakra, so the energy of fear. Again, there are different stories on top, so always depending, in which country you're living, what your personal life experience was so far. It's very different for everybody, but the energy, the underlying energy, so different things can cause fear. So for some people, it's like, just to name a few examples, they're fearful of dogs. Some people are fearful of spiders. Some people are fearful of the dark. Some people are fearful of beings, like spirits. It doesn't really matter what you're fearful of. The fact is that there is fear in your system. So I clear fear. And the fear is just there because it's part of the survival mode. So surviving, keeping this body mind alive is the highest priority of the fear. Or this is why we have fear there. But this is a misunderstanding. And this is what we're realizing these days. Because we don't need to have fear for surviving, Because if we are in a situation where, it's like, we were talking about the dog before, where we usually would feel fear because we were fearful of dogs, we were fearful that the dog is biting us, we would just have an impulse from the system, from this higher information that we have available. Either the information would be run or talk to the dog or call out for the owner of the dog. So just an impulse would come up how to solve the situation, but fear is not needed. This is just an example. And then I clear fear about the future. So this is a really big one. Fear about the future. Fear about the future fear around not knowing how to cope with new situations, or how to maintain a living, and yeah, how to process, or what's the best way to describe it? How to interact or to act on what's happening on Earth right now. So there is fear around this. I clear the fear, I clear the fear, I clear the fear. Then the heart chakra, always see the identification around that in the heart chakra. So I don't know what to do. 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 So I'm just clearing those energies. I don't know what to do. I feel helpless. I feel helpless. I feel helpless. I feel helpless. So I clear those energies. Because behind there is just nothing, you know? So, and then we just don't have them anymore. So they can be just removed. So if we have a fear of, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, and I don't know what to do with all what's happening right now, if we just remove that, it's just not there, and we can go on with our day. So it's just a blockage. So I clear it. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle and how to cope with this life experience. I don't know. So I clear it. And if you feel into your body mind right now, it feels a lot calmer again. It's a lot more peaceful. There is a lot more light present, and the system is so expanded, so you don't feel the boundaries of your body anymore, because your body is filled up with light. The energy bodies are filled up with light, and all around you is light as well. And then I fill up your heart chakra with unconditional love, because this is so much needed, the human part of us. So the human part of us just needs love and comfort. So I'm giving that the human part right now. So we are pure beingness, pure existence, that's having a human experience. But the human is really important, because this is our main experience, right? This is what we identify with. And of course we want to have a nice human life experience. Who doesn't? And so this unconditional love that's coming in right now is really comforting the human. And I also fill up your whole system with unconditional love through the heart chakra. And I'm clearing a few more worries. There are worries popping up on the mind level, so I just clear those. Clear more of them. The mind can interfere very much with our experience, with our current experience. So it's important to remove energies out of the mind, so that the mind can quiet down a bit more. There is not so much interference.